Andres today. Today we're jumping into John Wayne Gacy, Devil in Disguise, episode 2. After this, I'm going to flip back to the other with the tapes, John Wayne Gacy, the tapes. But I did want to get two episodes of this. Maybe I'll do one more episode and then I'll go into that one. But I'm going to go back and forth. So in the first one, I was introduced to John Wayne Gacy. As you guys know, I don't really know serial killers. I don't really know. Actually, I don't think I ever knew of this serial killer before, and neither did I know of Dahmer. So, yes, the first one I was just like, oh my gosh, but to actually see him and he's talking, he seems very arrogant, just like they said, very different from Dahmer. This guy is just talk, and he seems like he really loves himself. But I'm ready to jump into this episode. I'm kind of hoping that this is going to give us a little bit more of the backstory when everything first started, instead of not us just jumping into any of the cases or anything like that. Somebody also said they enjoyed the Netflix, the tapes, better than they like of this one. You can kind of see the production on Peacock. It's obviously more lower budget than Netflix shows altogether. They don't have the money, they just started. But it's still giving me a bigger insight into who this person is, and that's why I'm mixing both of these together. And that's what I did hear you guys loud and clear about Ted Bundy. We're going to get into Ted Bundy as well. We are going to get into Mindhunter. We are going to get into a whole bunch of true crime content. I actually saw some stuff on Netflix too. I want to do like paranormals or paranormal, whatever they call it, you know, the ghost thing. I want to do that as well. I saw some stuff on Netflix. I'm very interested in it. This is all going to be under one realm on my platform, a little sector of type of stuff that I react to. So trust me, I hear you guys loud and clear that you want Ted Bundy and you want more true crime and you want some paranormal activities. We gotta get there. So I'm ready to jump into this. This is gonna be available for a full reaction from my second, third tier here on the YouTube platform, as well as my other platform, Patreon. So guys, please sign up to one of those platforms and help support the channel today. Okay, I'm a reactor. It's time to react to things. With that being said, guys, let's jump into John Wayne Gacy, Angel in Disguise, Devil in Disguise. What the hell is this called? Something about disguise. Devil in Disguise. Did I say angel? He's a devil. Devil in Disguise. And let's find out exactly what this show has got to give.
The clowning was relaxation for me. I enjoyed entertaining kids. They unwind in different ways. Either we're going out drinking or that. I could put on clown makeup and I was relaxed.
Yeah, this was not used then for a lure to draw kids to you
No, and we didn't entertain them with handcuffs or anything like that. All we used was balloon animals and small toys and stuff like that. I've always told people when I got into clown makeup, I regressed into childhood. Clowning has taken a bad name because of what they've used in my case.
Super confident when we first started our investigation, up until the last maybe 2.5 days. At one point, we were in a restaurant and he was telling me he volunteered as a clown. See a nice looking gal, he says you can put your arm around her and get a little feel.
Oh.
Clowns can get away with murder. And the hair on the back of my head just stood up.
Gacy appeared to be an average Joe. Could this guy really be a monster? I mean, could he have killed Robert Peace?
Gacy was thought to be one of the last people to have seen Rob Peace.
We knew he was about ready to break.
Police officer had opened the crawl space, didn't see anything.
But then it became evident that there might be more people missing. So we went and did the second search warrant. We searched everywhere else, so we decided, well, let's dig. He said, I think we have something. So we started digging some more. We found a left femur with no flesh on it, and another left femur. Nobody has two left femurs.
What is a femur?
We regroup. All right, let's see, what's the next step?
Robert Stein was there. And I realized that if Stein was on the scene in the middle of the night, this had to be big.
The bodies of at least 3 young boys buried under his house.
Some other mounds, and it appears to be more there.
This should not have happened.
Gacy is a 36-year-old building contractor who reportedly dressed like a clown. Once went to prison for a sex offense in Iowa.
I reported on Gacy's time in Iowa, where he was arrested for sodomy. They should have been able to see what happened in Iowa.
In a nutshell, without getting in too deeply, what was the basis of the Iowa conviction?
It was a sodomy conviction. It's the only thing I ever was sentenced to was a sodomy conviction. And in essence, he was blackmailing me for it. Now, what it boiled down to was oral copulation, and it was consensual.
He was kind, he was hardworking, he did love family, and in Iowa was where the big change took place. There was a different John. John moved because he met and married his first wife. Her father had Kentucky Fried Chicken businesses in Iowa. His father-in-law was trying to build something up for his kids. He in there with him to learn the business so he could carry it on.
Gacy was a very prominent member of the Waterloo Junior Chamber of Commerce. These were young business people priming themselves to take leadership. Business people have always had the ear of the authorities and the mayor.
And was a recruiter, probably their best recruiter from what the JC said.
Gacy pretty much became the man in the community.
You know, I was the chaplain for the JCs and also ran the membership campaign, egg shows, and that's how we increased the membership from 150 to 400 members in that JC chapter. So it was, you know, the thing to do. We were boosting membership from it.
Had a certain number of beers, and you watch some stag films, maybe that, why not? Everybody's involved in sexual activity outside the marriage, so why are you looking at me?
I'm a member of the JCs and I've got to go to this party. So we went and we were going to get into the car. It wasn't Marlon and John, her and another guy. She brought him home instead, came home and this guy left right about the same time. I cannot believe that you put us in that type of awkward situation. I'm not a prude. I mean, if you're going to do something like that, do it on your own time.
John Gacy was a very dominant personality, so people did what he wanted them to do, use them as objects and toys for his sexual gratification.
Received a call that he had been arrested, devastating to my father at that point because he thought John had his act together.
A report that he had coerced a young man. I thought he was quite brave as a young man to come forward and tell his story. We brought a charge of sodomy against John Gacy. Hired young people to commit acts of sex on them.
Gacy was running for president of the JC's, the Chamber of Commerce. Believed he could talk his way out of pretty much anything, and he was successful at it on many occasions.
He was able to get these young boys back into the house, into a position where they're immobilized. And then he took advantage of them.
At the time, this young individual made the charge at me. He was blackmailing me. Go see your father. He wasn't getting along with his father. But they came down heavy on me.
Feel remorse about anything. When he was first arrested in Iowa, it's not my fault, it's the kid's fault.
As far as my mom and dad go, they believed that John was getting railroaded because him and this other guy were running for office. But my mom and dad, they were believing it. They said he shouldn't have been charged because it was consensual.
Kept hearing horror stories about his attempts to intimidate and even eliminate the complaining witness. Charged him with a series of additional crimes, which eventually led to his guilty plea.
Went to see Marlon, who was still his wife, but she had filed for divorce. Had complaints at the restaurants that he owned about John being just a little overly friendly sometimes with the employees.
Served 10 years in the men's reformatory at Anamosa.
Oh, not Anamosa.
Anamosa is typically for younger people who have committed crimes.
This is the men's reformatory at Anamosa. Inside are 629 inmates.
The prison itself, it looks like Ivanhoe's castle. At least it doesn't look like, you know, a waiting room for hell. Inside the walls, he was known as Gacy. I never heard anybody ever call him John. We literally went around talking to people basically saying, this is something that'll help you pass the time. He's talking about something, but Gacy lied about why he was there. Certainly never talked about any sexual assaults on anybody. He had to hold on to unless he wanted to leave prison in a box.
Well, I'm John Gacy. I'm from Waterloo, Iowa.
You're a man of some authority here.
I'm first cook in the kitchen, and there's 9 cooks.
Of course, the kitchen had some of the most prestigious jobs.
When he was cooking as a chef, he would curry favor from the guards. And outside the kitchen, only the guards and other administrative people wore white shirts. You got to wear a white shirt.
That's not prison garb, okay?
He received an award from the National JCs for the best performance in a prison JC chapter.
It literally was one of the bigger chapters in the entire state. John had some good attributes, one of which was he understood how to lead people. This couple who had run this miniature golf course, he talks to the warden, oh, this is a great recreational deal. This is a nonprofit. He didn't bother to tell him he was an inmate. If you donate it to the reformatory, it's a nonprofit, and you'll get a tax break. Sending a truck from Prison Industries to pick up the remains of this golf course.
His time in prison, I think he talked more about the meals he made, the miniature golf course.
In that closed little environment, people like John have a lot of power. John Gacy had wanted somebody snuffed. He could have gotten it done.
There he is. Special for the guys.
The food service department, on Christmas Eve, we will serve cookies and hot chocolate.
Dad was sickly, and on Christmas Day, my dad died. Felt that what he had done caused Dad dying. It's the shame that he went to prison that was laying on his mind.
He was just devastated by the death of his father and the fact that he couldn't be there. That's the only time I ever saw him cry. I was talking about his dad.
I didn't hate my dad either.
But you did have a hard upbringing with him, did you not?
An alcoholic, sorry to say.
Was he abusive? Did he strike out at you?
When he drank, he was almost like a different person.
John was usually his target, and when he drank too much, John got the brunt of it. He helped her writing letters, and they finally got through to Iowa.
How long do you plan to take up residence here?
Well, I hope to be getting out sometime in May.
Felt that he was rehabilitated, and so at 18 months, he came home.
They allowed him parole after 1.5 years with his white shirt, cooking for the warden, and Illinois accepted his parole.
I think possibly some money changed hands. Both ended up being essentially released the same day.
There was no transfer of information. We sure had a mountain of information on the man that would have been extremely helpful.
Fooling authorities that, oh, he's fine, he's cured. Gacy was free again to come back to Chicago.
The Iowa State Psychopathic Hospital, it was called at the time, did a complete workup of Gacy. There is absolutely no treatment of any kind that is going to cure this guy.
Clearly said this man will continue to commit crimes. Somebody somewhere really screwed the pooch on this one because they had every warning sign.
I was under the Interstate Compact. I was paroled back to Illinois. That was a requirement of Interstate Compact transfer. You had to have a job and a place to stay. I moved in with my mother. In the condominium, my dad had just passed away. So I lived with my mother and worked at Bruno's as a chef.
He liked the hobnob of being with other people. His life, had he not been working at the restaurant.
But on the side, I used to go in at 4 in the morning and get off at 2 o'clock in the afternoon. So I started doing odd jobs painting. And the afternoons and the weekends, I was making more money than I was as a chef. Through odd jobs, I left the chef business.
Started kicking out this little remodeling type business. Just wanted to be successful. He wanted to be known for something.
Most construction companies shut down for the winter. I never had time to shut down because I had him on a waiting list.
Mom and John got along at first. He never tried to contact her or anything. I started talking to Mom about getting a bigger place. Lo and behold, Mom went ahead without us and sold it.
Small, single-family houses, the good working-class people of Chicago. This is where they live.
And like the living room was the front office. The dining room of that house was like a boardroom.
John was happy because it was going to be where he could start a business. Mom was happy. I think she was happy to be back in a house again. Earl was my best friend through high school, and I always kind of had a little thing for John. Terrell really needed somebody, and John needed somebody.
The day we got married, that was a big deal.
I was introduced to John in 1972 and asked to photograph his wedding. He was a good groom that day. In the wedding, he was dignified. Carol was beautiful.
Girls still refer to him as their dad.
She didn't want to interfere because of their marriage and everything, a new marriage, and she just felt it'd be better if she was back on her own. Mom moved out. She just said things weren't getting along, but that's all she said. Mom protected John all the time. She turned on the light, found him there with another man in her living room. It scared the daylights out of her. She probably carried secrets that she went to the grave with.
He has called you a homosexual killer. What is your position on homosexuality?
I have nothing against it. I don't care for any labeling for that fact.
Do you claim homosexuality?
No, I would engage in sex with males, but that I'm bisexual.
They're bisexual?
Right. My preference is women.
I didn't know anything about the sodomy when he was in Iowa. Hit me like, oh my God, he was in prison. He just said he was dealing with pornography.
Anything he needed pictures of, I was there to do it. So I photographed him as Pogo the Clown, his family for their Christmas cards. He once said to me, "There's money to be made in photographing homosexuals." Here you say that I should photograph homosexuals engaging in illicit behavior, meant taking dignified portraits of homosexuals. What's wrong with that? He was very careful the way he used his words.
I didn't realize how much of that was going on.
If you were out after dark and you didn't leave a phone number, you were up to no good.
I used to make comments when he would go out at night. Like my father, I said, good, I hope it haunts you. Our bedroom was right Island Drive as you come in. Car would be parked and he'd be maybe standing and talking to somebody, and it was always a young kid. I had gone to the garage one day when he was gone, and I knew he'd be gone for a long period of time. Heavy chains laying on the side and then a blanket on the floor. You're carrying a crowbar in your car for. He says, what the hell are you doing in my car? I said, I was cleaning it. He said, Happy Mother's Day, and this is the last time that we're having sex. I said, oh, really?
My marriages went down the drain only because I was a workaholic.
She said she really felt that he was making things bad, so she'd leave. Even though he wanted the happiness, something kept driving him toward the other side.
He said, one day, you're going to read about me on the front pages of the newspapers.
Gacy employed mostly young men, and they would party at the house. Source of all kinds of marijuana, drugs, uppers, pills.
The kids that had no aim in life, they had nowhere else to go.
There was 12 keys out to the house.
12 sets of keys?
12 sets of keys. Anybody working for PDM contractors had a set of keys. So you could come and go when you wanted. And of course my neighbors would keep me informed. They would inform me.
Sometime later, Michael Rossi came to live with John.
He was 20 years old.
Michael Rossi was a handsome kid, polite. Michael got work. John got his walls knocked down for cheap.
John told me that Michael Rossi is really good with helping keep his crews working. No, Carol didn't care for him. We just couldn't put our finger on why.
There was more than one person that was in that same kind of relationship. He worked for John sometimes as a construction person. He worked, in the bedroom. They had a sexual relationship. You give me something, I'll give you something.
If I wanted to engage in sex, Rossi and Cram were willing to go down on me anytime I wanted to.
I just said to John, those two are bad news.
Robert Peace was only 15 years old.
The entire investigation, Gacy was always talking about suing the Des Plaines Police Department for harassment.
So he calls in Sam Ammirati, who was just leaving the public defender's office, and they sue for harassing him with this surveillance.
Gacy was a member of the electric board, and Ammirati did some legal work for them. Gacy needed a favor, is the way he put it. He called Ammirati.
Attorneys comes out the front door and waves Mike over and says, "Hey, I know it's super cold out there. Why don't you guys come on in?" We decided, okay, we'll come in there under one condition. We have to be able to see Gacy out, and it looked like he was the Walking Dead. His eyes were closed, he was slouched over. To the attorneys about what we have seen over this 10 days of following him, that this guy is dangerous.
He wakes up, you never know what he's going to do. We've been told that he gets very violent, he can hurt people.
This or not, the attorney said, guys, if he tries to leave, shoot his tires out. Gacy gets up, he jumps up off this couch, stares straight ahead, door open, jumped in his car and took off.
Gas station, and he's double handshaking and showing some emotion with the owner. Gacy didn't do that kind of thing.
And at one point, he pulls out I could see from a distance, looked like a bag of marijuana. As soon as I walked in the gas station, this kid took the marijuana out of his pocket and just about threw it at me and said, "Hey, I didn't buy this, I didn't ask for it."
They both come out. David Cram comes over to me and asks if it's all right if he drives Gacy's car.
And then all of a sudden, Cram jumps out of his car and comes over to us and says, "Gacy just told me he killed 33 kids.
We go to his father's grave at a cemetery, then he was going to commit suicide. So, okay, let's just take him out of marijuana and we'll see what happens from there.
The investigators were seeking a second search warrant.
And we put handcuffs on him and put him in the back of our car. They took him to the emergency room at Holy Family Hospital. They told him at the hospital, just give him the whole screening.
Long after we were there, they said, "Hey, here's a call for you, Dave." So I got on the phone, shovel of dirt that we dug into. We found bones down there, human remains.
Here for the local JCs who entertain children is Pogo the Clown.
He is charged with murder.
If he'd done his full sentence, he would have been in prison till 78. The crimes never would have happened.
These dark secrets, the fact that this was a house of death, a house of horror, was not known. That there were bodies buried, and they started prying up the floorboards, and that's when the secrets of John Wayne Gacy started to pour out.
Well, so this was so disturbing. At the ending of it, I started getting chest pains. I was like, I don't feel good. Very creepy. I don't know. It just gets me so uneasy looking at him, listening to what he was doing. I felt like I could tell they were all scared. I don't know. It just gives me, this is giving me creepy, once again, another creepy crawler. It's just, congratulations, you're a creepy crawler. I just felt very uneasy, and just to know everything, what happened. I really do hope, because right now we're still going more into that same, it seems like for me that they're being very repetitive about the arrest, or maybe they're saying that at the ending to remind us that they arrested him. But I really, that's why I liked the Dahmer series, because you got to see the story play out. I find this very interesting when he's speaking and you get to hear his insight on things, and I do like hearing other people, but I feel like the series would overall wrap me up into everything that's going on, and I hope by the next episode of this, or the tapes that we're going to get into, that we know from the first victim, because still I don't know any of these victims. I don't know any of the people that he murdered. When did he I think they said 68 he started murdering, but who were all these people? It's 33 people that we keep hearing about, but we don't know their names. We don't know when he met them. We don't know anything. So I'm not sure. This is a good, we got more insight with the sister, and we're learning more about that. But I just hope by the next episode that we get to do more deep dive into the victims, and how did he meet these victims, and what happened. I'm very interested in that. So Guys, now I'm gonna do that outro because it's about that time I get off of this. With that being said, guys, if you've seen this reaction, realize you are not subscribed. Hit subscribe button, so please like and share this content because it does wonders for this channel. And I'll see you all next time on Disappearance.